Video by Odd Compass, Bodhidharma, the mysterious Indian prince behind Kung Fu and Zen. Okay. I didn't know Kung Fu has Indian origin.
Kung Fu and Zen Buddhism. Today, these are associated with China and the Far East, but did you know that it can be traced back to a legendary Indian monk? Meet Bodhidharma, first patriarch of Zen Buddhism and the initial force behind the development of Kung Fu. Let's travel back in time to 440 CE, to the Tamil Pallava camp. It was there, in the imperial capital of Kanchipuram, that Bodhidharma was born to King Simhavarma.
Bodhidharma.
Well liked and well respected, Bodhidharma was the youngest of 3 sons, and yet, despite his age, he was favored to take the throne. Knowing that their father preferred Bodhidharma, the 2 older princes tried to interfere. What began as public disparaging remarks escalated into outright hostility, and eventually an assassination attempt, but Bodhidharma narrowly survived. Violence, hatred, betrayal, all of this disenchanted Bodhidharma from a career in politics. He decided to renounce his royal claims, turn to Buddhism, and redirect his energy to spiritual matters. Armed with new purpose, Bodhidharma began to travel. He journeyed far to the north, to Magadha, where he received training in the Dharma from the famed Buddhist teacher Prajnathara. Fun fact, many scholars believe that Prajnathara was a woman. There's substantial evidence for this claim, as well as for the existence of prominent female teachers at the time. Bodhidharma learned much from his venerable master, but just before Prajnathara's death, she made a suggestion. He should travel to China to proselytize the faith. Yes, China. Though Bodhidharma was encouraged to take the maritime route, as Hunnic violence made the overland route too unstable. Coincidentally, the maritime route required that Bodhidharma depart from the port city of Mahabalipuram, located in his family's core territory. Despite the chaos of his former princely life, Bodhidharma returned home with cautious optimism. See, it was Bodhidharma's kindly nephew, not one of his nasty, scheming brothers, who was seated upon the Pallava throne. This newly minted king regretted how Bodhidharma had been treated in the past and wished to make amends, and so he requested that Bodhidharma stay and accept his patronage and protection. But Bodhidharma politely refused. He was determined to continue along the path towards China. That being said, the young king still wanted to provide assistance, and so he sent word to the Liaosong emperor in China, requesting that Bodhidharma be welcomed to his country as an honored guest. It's important to note that Bodhidharma wasn't doing something outlandish in traveling to China. The Pallavas were a well-connected mercantile kingdom with significant political, cultural, and religious influences abroad. They traded goods as far west as the Mediterranean and as far east as Fiji and Japan. And generally, Indian mercenaries, diplomats, merchants, and monks traveled widely. The reverse was true also. There was a significant foreign presence throughout coastal India. For example, in the Tamil harbor town of Nagapattinam, archaeologists have discovered the remains of a Buddhist pagoda which was built for the Chinese community in the region. But let's rejoin our friend on his journey, shall we? In 472 CE, Bodhidharma set off from the port of Mahabalipuram. Bodhidharma made several stops in maritime Southeast Asia. The most important of these stops was the Kantoli kingdom of Sumatra, where he's believed to have stayed for up to 2 years. In this region, Bodhidharma would have been a part of the vibrant university scene and started intensive study of the Chinese language. Finally, around 475 CE, Bodhidharma made his way to southern China and arrived at the bustling port of Guangzhou.
What is it now, Malaysia?
Even today, an ancient stone in the port marks his arrival. It bears the inscription, "Landing place of the visitor from the west." In China, Bodhidharma's work could finally begin. In 475 CE, China was divided into 2 dynasties, the northern Wei and the southern Liaosong. Buddhism had already spread successfully in the north. The region boasted 30,000 temples, and 5% of the population had served as Buddhist clergy. In the south, however, the Buddhist religion was mostly limited to the elite. It had not yet become popular among commoners. And so it was in the south that Bodhidharma began to preach, in busy metropolitan Guangzhou. During this time, Bodhidharma lived and worked at Hualin Temple, but he also preached at the nearby Guangxi Temple. There is ample physical evidence attesting to Bodhidharma's presence. For example, while living at the Hualin Temple, he ordered the construction of 5 wells, each featuring written inscriptions, and these are still preserved today. Furthermore, 3 gates in the temple compound bear the inscription, "Visitor from the West," and within the inner sanctum of the temple itself, followers of Bodhidharma installed a 75-foot high statue in his honor. But this peaceful life would not last forever. In 490 CE, after nearly 15 years spent in Guangzhou, a famous interaction occurred between Bodhidharma and Emperor Wu of the New.
Why China though? I mean, that's my question. why China? Like, isn't there other place where there was probably like even less, um, you know, like where the religion of Buddhism had spread even less, where it could have gone? Because China seems like they already had like a good start, I would say. So why China?
Qi dynasty. See, the emperor wanted to know about the merits he would receive for building several Buddhist temples. In response, Bodhidharma explained the Zen-like doctrine of emptiness and told the emperor that he would receive no merit for building the
Yeah,
temples.
no. Fair enough. It's not one of those religion, right? It's not. Okay, I'm not gonna say anything, but yeah, fair enough.
Furious, Emperor Wu
I'm
ordered
not getting
that
cancelled on
Bodhidharma
my
leave
first stream.
his site at once. Bodhidharma was no fool. His life as a prince taught him about the very real dangers of politics. If he stayed in the region, he knew he would face problems. And so Bodhidharma crossed the Yangtze River on a reed boat and made his way to Pingcheng, the capital of the Northern Wei. In his initial years up north, Bodhidharma moved around quite a bit. When Emperor Cao Wen shifted the capital to Luoyang in 494 CE, Bodhidharma moved there along with other prominent monks. And 2 years later, when the emperor ordered the construction of the legendary Shaolin Monastery, Bodhidharma moved there too. Fun fact, though historians almost exclusively associate the Shaolin Monastery with Bodhidharma's legacy, the temple was actually built on behalf of a different Indian spiritual master, a monk named Batwa. Bodhidharma's time at the Shaolin Monastery was controversial to say the least, for he was an unorthodox man who preached unorthodox methods. Consider, for example, his Zen-like technique known as wall gazing. Bodhidharma is said to have spent up to 9 years in meditation in Songshan Cave, facing a rock wall. This approach was seen as a coup for Buddhist thought in China, which was mainly scripture-based. Meditative Indian Buddhism hadn't yet caught on. Bodhidharma's meditation-focused approach attracted both admiration and hostility. He gained several allies, including 2 prominent Chinese disciples, Hui Ko and Dao Yu, but he gained many enemies too. Bodhidharma's teachings were perceived as inaccessible to common folk, and traditional Chinese Buddhists—
is he telling people that they need to do the same, like just stare at a wall for 9 years? Is that the problem? Kind of understand why that wouldn't be a very popular thing to do. I mean, like, nobody's got time for that. Except if you're already rich, I guess you've got time for that. But as a normal person, you know, you don't really have time for that.
Worried that it would slow the spread of the religion. Politically entrenched monks decided that Bodhidharma had to be stopped. According to one narrative proposed by the writer of Transmission of the Land, Bodhidharma was fatally poisoned by a jealous rival in 528 CE. Another narrative, put forth by the writer Dao Xuan, claims that Bodhidharma died on the banks of the Low River, which was a popular spot for executions. Dao Xuan talks extensively about the hostility towards Bodhidharma's teachings, and so it has been theorized that Bodhidharma was executed for his beliefs during the Late Wei Rebellion. But yet another interesting narrative.
I mean, I could see it like the government wouldn't be very happy if his teaching catch on, because yeah, like if everybody start doing that, the country is less productive and all that, right? So I could see that they wouldn't really be into his version of it.
This time, a supernatural folktale surrounds Bodhidharma's death. According to medieval writings, a Chinese official bumped into Bodhidharma while traveling abroad in Central Asia. Bodhidharma was carrying his favorite weapon, a South Indian long staff, and there was one sandal hanging from the tip. In his conversation with the official, Bodhidharma explained that he was returning to his beloved homeland, India. As for the single sandal, he said that the official would soon understand. Perplexed by the conversation, the official made the journey to the Shaolin Temple, only to discover that Bodhidharma had passed away 3 years prior. Curiosity drove the monks to open his tomb, but they found no body and no buried items except for a single sandal. Since then, Bodhidharma has often been depicted carrying a staff with one sandal hanging from the tip.
But what is it saying, the one sandal?
View in both Chinese and Indian society is that Bodhidharma is the illustrious founder of Shaolin Kung Fu. Is such a claim tenable? Perhaps, but it's complicated. Based on extensive narrative evidence describing Bodhidharma, his favorite weapon was the 6-span staff, which is similar in form and function.
Wait, so he fought people? I thought he was like a religious preacher, basically. Like, who did he fight and why did he fight? Interesting.
The Silambam fighting staff and the Ketukari fighting staff, both originating from South India. Interesting. Let's hop back over to India then. For thousands of years, many different martial arts traditions found a home in the Indian subcontinent. These traditions varied from region to region. Military
Makes
accounts
sense,
of the
yeah.
Gupta Empire identify over 130 different weapons worth mastering. And in the Lotus Sutra, there's reference to a boxing art. Even the Kama Sutra contains martial references, suggesting that women, not just men, should practice with sword, spear, quarterstaff, and bow and arrow. People
not
often
making
assume
any
that
jokes.
martial training in India was exclusive to the Shah.
Interesting.
This is simply incorrect from a historical perspective. Caste was not a prohibitive factor for receiving high-quality training. For example, we know that throughout Indian history, well-trained peasants who had served in war campaigns formed prominent martial clans. And in the 8th century text Kuvale Mala, it describes martial arts being taught at Salad and Ghataka educational institutions. At these institutions, Brahmin students from all over the subcontinent learned and practiced many combat styles. Unfortunately, British colonial policy led to the destruction of most native Indian martial arts. In both North and South India, only a scattered few martial traditions remain. Let's turn our focus to South India,
That's such a
specifically.
shame. I've talked about it before, but Indian tend to not really these days do well in the UFC, which is like probably the main sport I watch, I guess. Which I know UFC is MMA, and there's other organization I know, and one of the reasons is obviously the way for like over 200 years the different martial arts were like suppressed, and obviously since like the end of colonization, uh, from what I understand, India has like had a lot of trouble getting people back to this more like violent confrontational martial art, so like chess and cricket has been more like promoted, right? I believe I had read recently that like there's no official support for stuff like MMA. So for example, if you founded a gym, you'd have to pay for everything. There would be no government support for it. It just makes you wonder, yeah, like with all this traditional martial art and all that, how early UFC would have been if India still had all of them, with a lot of practitioner and everything. I really wonder, I don't know any of them, but if any of them would have turned out to be practical, and actually do good in like early UFC, versus jiu-jitsu and wrestling and stuff like that, it could have been interesting. Definitely. It's a what-if situation.
Tamil country, the place of Bodhidharma's origin. There are 4 martial arts traditions in South India that scholars believe could have influenced Bodhidharma. Kalariyapattu is an ancient weapons-based tradition that is often referred to as the mother of martial arts, with written evidence of its existence dating back to 200 BCE, and indirect evidence supporting a much older lineage. Kalariyapattu is
If it's
perhaps
from a
most
movie,
famous.
sorry. I don't watch anything from movie or no songs on this stream. Hello Unfiltered. Salam Soswatika. Yeah, but it's a long one. I'm trying to like watch videos under 30 minutes today. I prefer like to do shorter videos today so we can watch a lot of them. But maybe one day I will watch it. Maybe one day.
For its exotic weapons, including a multi-bladed sword whip. Silambam is another weapons-based tradition, but special focus is given to the staff. Tamil Sangam literature dating all the way back to the 2nd century make reference to the sale of Silambam staves, swords, and armor to foreign merchants. Varmam is a unique martial tradition with a focus on pressure point attacks and medicinal treatments, both very
pressure
relevant
point
to
stuff.
Shaolin Kung Fu. Varma Adi is an unarmed tradition that was very popular in the Pallava dynasty. It was a practical martial art with few prohibitions. It encouraged grappling, disarming opponents, kicking, kneeing, elbowing, and head blows. As a prince of the Pallava dynasty,
MMA?
Bodhidharma would have been subject to extensive martial training and would have been proficient with various South Indian martial arts.
Oh, that explains that,
But
yeah.
did Bodhidharma transmit any of this knowledge to the monks at the Shaolin Temple? Many scholars seem to believe that he did, at least in some capacity. During his time at the Shaolin Temple, Bodhidharma is believed to have taught the monks a series of martial practices long associated with the various South Indian traditions. Breathing exercises, stretches, attacks, defenses,
But I don't know, like, it's kind of hard to believe you would, because one second is spending 9 years staring at a wall in a cave to meditate, right? And then next second is basically teaching people to fight. I mean, that sounds very opposite on what his goals are, I guess, to spread the religion. I don't know. I I've seen you somewhere. Have you worked in any movie or web series? Probably not. People have said I look like Adam Sandler before, you know. But yeah, I just posted a lot of YouTube videos. Yeah, you know, that's about it. That's about it.
Even medicinal treatments. Bodhidharma's decision to teach Indian martial arts to Chinese monks might have stemmed from the need to improve their blood circulation. After all, his meditative innovations encouraged long hours of stillness. Martial training would have also been useful against highway robbers and other criminals who were a constant headache for the monks. Bodhidharma wrote down his martial teachings in a manual called Yijin Jing, and these texts were said to have evolved into Shaolin Kung Fu. Fascinating, right? But it's important to remember that Bodhidharma, though an important contributor, was not the sole creator of Shaolin Kung Fu. More accurately, he was one of several influences that developed into the Shaolin martial arts tradition. Let's make one thing clear. Bodhidharma is not the founder of Zen Buddhism. The meditative practices of Zen Buddhism, otherwise known as Chan, had already been gaining traction in India for many years before. That being said, Bodhidharma did develop and propagate his own unique approach to Zen. It was this form of Zen that Bodhidharma brought to China. So what did Bodhidharma do exactly? It's fair to say that he introduced and popularized Zen practice in China and the Far East. In fact, he was so successful that in the decades after Bodhidharma's death, Zen Buddhism became the mainstream form of Chinese Buddhism. It even came to be known as Damozang, or the Bodhidharma school. Although he may not be the original creator of Zen Buddhism, he is arguably its most important figure. Bodhidharma's teachings didn't remain isolated in China. Eventually, his unique strain of Buddhism traveled to Korea and then Japan, where it had a significant impact on their respective cultures. Bodhidharma's impact was so significant, in fact, that the Japanese developed new narratives to more closely link him to their country. For example, while Chinese legends trace his death to poisoning in 528 CE, Japanese legends follow through by claiming that his soul was later reincarnated in Nara as a wise beggar.
I am not surprised. Literally, yesterday I was reading something about how Japan's Christianity, they have like their own version of like after Jesus was killed on the cross or something, he went to Japan as a farmer or something. Like Japan is so weird when it comes to religion and so interesting. They've got like, you know, like a version of like every religion plus 10,000 of their own, which, you know, like everything can be a deity in some way, you know, like my phone case can be a deity. I'm not even joking. Anything can have a god in some way. But the funniest thing is when you look into like some of the version of the other religion and like the way they've adapted in some way to Japan, it's just kind of funny. It's always so random when you read about it. Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting.
Who lived at the foot of Mount Katoka, located in Oji Prefecture. In fact, of the 8 temples in Japan dedicated to Bodhidharma, the most important one is located in Oji Prefecture. And because of Bodhidharma's contributions to martial arts in East Asia, he was respected and favored by the samurai. And so if you visit the gardens of his dedicated temple in Oji Prefecture, you'll find the graves of many important samurai. In Japan, Bodhidharma's cultural role was expanded and changed over time. He came to be known as Dharma and enjoyed popularity as a birthing deity, a protector of children, and a bringer of good luck, especially during a severe smallpox epidemic in the Edo period. It is during this time that Dharma dolls became an auspicious gift for children.
Oh, that's what they are. I did not make the connection. Bodhidharma, Dharma, and the Dharma dolls. That's where they're from, okay? I did not make the connection.
The representation of Dharma dolls is based on the legend of Bodhidharma's 9-year meditation in Songshan Cave. In the legend, his arms and legs fell off due to the lack of use. Then, to avoid sleeping, he cut off his eyelids. The red color of the original doll comes from the association of red with measles and smallpox during the Edo period. Even today, Dharma dolls are given as gifts during major festivals and events, including Japanese elections. And the eyes are meant to be painted in by the recipient as part of a wish-making ritual.
Okay, but I'm gonna say, it's not just me, the stupid foreigner who doesn't know the context. No way most people know this context, like that the Dharma doll are from this guy Bodhidharma, and also it's based on the legend of him losing his arm and cutting off his eyelids. No way most people know that.
So there you have it. Bodhidharma was truly a larger-than-life
I'd be
figure,
surprised.
even if some of the bolder claims about him may have been exaggerated.
Sure.
And now you know.
That's the story for you. Okay, pretty interesting. I mean, seems like an interesting guy. I uh, I would say to the very least, and I guess like many people in history, right? He may not have been the creator of something, but sometimes, as messed up as it is, the person who managed to make something truly popular and spread is the one more remembered at time to the point of erasing others who may have created it. Because again, it's just how it often goes, right? So yeah, fairly interesting. Um, I didn't think of the stuff about. I guess yeah, like you know, monks practicing martial arts for body flow because yeah, they're always sitting, right? You know, that makes some sense. I didn't think of that. It's not just to beat people to death; it's to like it's exercise basically. You know, fair enough. Very cool. Good video. I had no idea that was the origin of the Dharma dolls. I learned something big today. Very informative.